busy holiday season to come and learn about Solano County Care Courts. I am Pam Bertani. I'm the Vice Mayor of the City of Fairfield, and I'm going to allow my esteemed panelists with all of the knowledge about this program introduce themselves, let them tell you a little bit about what they do. And we'll start with the judge.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I am Alicia Jones. I am presently the presiding judge of the Solano County Superior Court, and I'm also the Care Court judge. So I have been on the bench. I do.
It's on.
And it's on. It's not working?
Maybe you should get a little closer to it.
If I get a little closer, does that help? No?
Yeah.
Is it helping?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to get very close. So I am the presiding judge of the court, which means it's sort of like the principal of a junior high school. I'm the administrator. My term is a 2-year term. It's about to conclude in the next 28 days. But I will continue to be the care court judge. And so I have been on the bench a total of 17 and a half years. And I have been in the family law division, the civil division, and the criminal division.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jen Mullane. I'm the Chief Deputy Director for Solano County Behavioral Health, and I've been working in this county for about 2.5 years now, in this role about 7 months. And prior to that, worked in Alameda County Behavioral Health for about 15 years. So I'm bringing some experience to the table from that county, and happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Welsh. I'm Deputy County Counsel for Solano County, and I represent the Behavioral Health Division. So I have the privilege of working with Judge Jones and also Jen Mullane on a regular basis. In fact, we just had care court this morning. So I'm just here to answer questions. I was hoping I could just sit over there and not be on the front, but yeah.
Not tonight. All right, so, and once again, welcome everyone. We'll have some time to have some Q&A. We definitely want to hear from you, and any questions or concerns or comments that you might have about the care courts here in Solano County. So why don't we start off kind of with the question of what is the purpose of the CARE Act courts? Why do we have this in Solano County and all through the state of California, I guess? What's the purpose of it?
I'll start with, I think, the court's perspective anyway. The Governor Newsom, recognized that there was a significant problem of homelessness as well as people who were suffering from mental illness in our community, who were living on the freeway medians, were living in abandoned properties, were living in large encampments. And so he had as his project to fund robustly in every county a care court, which would enable people to voluntarily participate in proceedings that would provide them with resources that are available in the community, but which people are not always aware of, and to enable them to receive support for their mental health issues as well as their housing issues, but on a voluntary basis in a civil proceeding as opposed to a criminal proceeding. I don't know if my fellow panelists wish to add to that part of it.
Well, I can, thank you, Judge. I'll just add that, you know, when I think of the purpose of care court, I think of it's one of several tools that we have in our tool belt, if you want to call it that. And that means that, you know, our hope is that always that people with moderate to severe mental illness, which is our population, will voluntarily accept treatment because they recognize that they need it. But often folks don't know that about themselves, and that's called anosognosia. And so there's a handful of people that we serve or should be serving that don't recognize how ill they are. So there's a handful of folks in our community that do very well when you do a proactive, very proactive and we call it the black robe effect, which is if you encourage, notice my language here, encourage someone to engage in treatment via the court, many people are accepting of the treatment because that black robe effect has an impact. That might be a nice way of saying that we may be pushing folks into treatment. But nevertheless, at the end of the day, and this is, I think, some of maybe what will come up tonight, is that at the end of the day, this really doesn't have a whole lot of teeth. We would love to know that it had more than it does. Nevertheless, we approach this as a very proactive outreach and engagement, and strongly encouraging folks to engage in recovery, utilizing this program. So the purpose is to really reach a handful of clients that might otherwise not engage in treatment in our community that desperately need it.
I'd like to add a couple of things to that. So we see the folks who are unhoused and mentally ill, but there's a cohort of people who are living in their families, and their families are really doing the hard work of caring for people who have chronic mental illness, which is also in some cases progressive. And those folks need support as well, because they may be going to work, keeping their fingers crossed, and coming home and caring for their family member without knowing that there are resources in the community that will assist them in that. So when we talk to the folks who come to Care Court, the individuals who are suffering from the mental illness is one conversation, but there's another conversation to support their family members because they're under a tremendous amount of strain. Also, Jen referred to the fact that it's voluntary because it's really critical to understand people's constitutional rights. The Constitution guarantees liberty, and liberty includes the right to be unmedicated, to live unhoused, to live in a state of great, from our perspective, a great distress. And a person has a constitutional right to that, just like they have a constitutional right against self-incrimination, just as they have many constitutional rights, and they also have a due process right. So to deprive someone of their rights to be living in this unmedicated, unhoused state requires a judicial process.
Okay, understood. So, one of the tough issues is how do we encourage our unhoused population that wants to be left alone? They don't want to go to a shelter. Mm-hmm. They just, because they're mentally ill and may not be making the best life choices for themselves, mm-hmm. They believe that it's better to be left alone on the streets than to be on the radar screen of someone or a judge, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we reach, is there a way or a strategy for reaching that population of our unhoused folks here in Solano County?
So I'd like to start, and I'm very interested in what Jen has to say, but my process is to manage our expectations and to understand that we operate from a standpoint of logic. So it makes sense to us that you would want to live in a home with a bed, and you mm-hmm. would want to be able to lock the door and keep yourself safe every day. It doesn't make sense to want to push your belongings in a shopping cart and to be unhoused and to live in the elements. But we also have to understand that that's a privileged and mentally healthy perspective, and we have to, I am a quilter, and so I piece things together. And so my expectation is that Care Court will ease someone's suffering. And that's every member of our community that we can help. If we can get them housed for a period of time, even if it's not for the rest of their lives, then we're easing their suffering. If we can ease the suffering of their caregiver by saying, I see you, I understand how difficult this is. These are the resources that we are going to try to utilize to ease your burden and to assist this individual. But we are learning as we are engaged in this very young process, it's only been going on for a year, that all the money in the world, all the money that the fourth largest economy in the world has, does not cure schizophrenia. So it has to be something else that we're looking to do. And that is to support our community and the unwell members in our community And maybe we can get them off the street permanently, but at least if we can get them off the street for a period of time, then that's a measure of success.
Yeah, thank you, Judge. I'll add to that, and I think this will be a big part of our conversation tonight, which I absolutely welcome. There's many ways I could jump into this to this answer, but I think you're asking the big question, like how do we encourage people to make health behavior change and any change in general when we think the thing that they're doing is harmful to them? And we'd be out of business if we could figure that out, because we just tell people what to do and they do it, and that'd be that, And I know I'm saying that a little jokingly, but it's true. That's kind of the perception. So we have to ask ourselves, are they any different than us? What makes me ambivalent every day? What makes me stuck somewhere in a paradigm? And so those same rules apply to the folks that we serve. So there are many methods that you can use to try to engage people who aren't making great choices for themselves. But at the end of the day, I would say the genuine, real, maybe authentic answer to that is we try and try and try and try again with every tool we have. We approach people with the same love and respect that we would want for ourselves. We hold a recovery orientation so that we know that, and I think you were alluding to this, Judge, that if someone has a history of homelessness and they've been on the streets for 20 years, could we get them into housing for 2 weeks? And that's a period of success. And even if they go back out, they've had that one period. And so we build and we build and we hope and we hope and we continue to engage. That's what we do. That's the work that we do. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Do we try and leverage and maximize our resources? Yes, and that's why I say, even though there's a lot of people across the state, I don't know if they're in the room or not, or up on the stage here even, but Care Court has mixed reviews, right? But I really embrace it because it's one of several options that we can use for a certain population that might be really helpful. 1 or 2 people who might otherwise never make it, might be saved by this program. And would it then be worth it? Yes. It's a lot of resources, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of data. I'm jokingly saying that, but it's the truth. And I'll just add one other thing, I'll stop soapboxing. That is that, I think that our governor wants this to be a panacea, and it's not. We'll do our best. We are doing our best. We're doing more than our best. But that's just the reality. So those are my thoughts for the moment.
Very interesting. Thank you for that perspective. So tell us about the process. How does this work? We all see homeless, unhoused folks all over Solano County. How does this process jumpstart? I understand there's a petition process, but what are the criteria for filing a petition? So say I see an unhoused individual in my neighborhood constantly near the school, and kind of on a daily basis. Can I, resident Pam of Rolling Hills, come to your court and say, here's the individual, here are the pictures, here's the evidence, can I file a petition?
Kelly, you want to take that?
So there are a number of people who can file a petition, and that's where the process starts. There are a number of different forms that the state has come out with, and they are all on the DHCS website, but there is an initial petition, and that can be filed by a person 18 years of age or older, but they have to fit into specific categories. So it could be a person that lives with the respondent. Okay. It could be a spouse or domestic partner. It could be the director of a hospital. It could be the director of, say, a nonprofit who's provided services to that person, a licensed behavioral health professional, the director of a county behavioral health agency. It could be a first responder. And the respondent themselves, they can also petition for themselves. So there's a number of different people who can petition the court, and then the process goes on from there. We have Judge Jones, who reviews the initial petition and determines whether they meet the criteria. And I will say that there has been more legislation that was just passed recently, so now the criteria to become a CARE Act respondent has become expanded. So initially it was schizophrenia or other psychotic disorder, but it was focused on schizophrenia. Now, come January 1st, bipolar 1 is also going to be an eligible diagnosis. So we think that's going to actually expand the number of CARE Act respondents we see. But the process does start with a petition. It has to fit into one of those categories of people, but there are a number of different people who can petition.
So those categories of people that you just mentioned, for instance, are first responders. Can a first responder, a police officer, or a firefighter, and along the list that you just said, can file a petition, but I, as a resident, cannot do that unless they live with me or I have some kind of relationship
Yeah, you have to
with
have a
them.
connection with them. They have to have some kind of connection with you. So, it could be, it could be a roommate or something like that. It could be a friend, but each of the respondents, they're able to designate a supporter. So sometimes they will have someone in court with them that they allow to be in these confidential proceedings. And you might be able to be a supporter of them if you're a friend and you're not actually the petitioner. You could actually be designated as their supporter if that were something that they were willing to do.
But even if I'm in the category of folks who can file a petition, that does not require the unhoused person to participate. So I can file a petition, but I can't make them go. Is that right?
Yes.
That's correct.
You can't make them go, and you can't organize them sufficiently so they go themselves, but you can support them in that. And if they can get in connection with behavioral health, then behavioral health has been very good at transporting people to court and for them to feel safe when they're in court, because a lot of times they're feeling extremely unsafe. So you sort of have to incentivize their willingness to go and encourage them because they're very nervous that their rights are going to be taken away.
I'm going to add something about that. In another county, I helped launch the Assisted Outpatient Treatment Program, which was another civil court process to encourage people with mental illness into treatment. And it was just very important for us to understand that, like I said before, it wasn't a panacea. And I lost my thought. What did you just say, Judge? I'm so sorry.
When people are afraid to go to court?
When they're afraid to go to court, yes. So then that piece around having that person, I can't think of the word with you, support person is really critical. You mentioned families earlier too. One thing that I learned in that process is that not everybody wants their family member to be that person, and that can cause some contention and struggle. That's not the point I was going to make. It will come back to me. It was a better point than that, so just I'm going to let it go for a moment.
And they get a lawyer as soon as they get to CARE Court, and that lawyer will advocate for them. They come from the Public Defender's Office, so it's free of charge.
Oh, wow, I did not know that.
Yes, and that person will meet with them, find out what their interests are, but behavioral health, in their role to communicate with the court, actually breaks down an important silo that the judges are in. Traditionally, the judges have been required to be detached and not engage with the parties, and to really stay neutral, and justice is blind, right? It's wearing a blindfold. But really, when we see behavioral health and their engagement and the different gestalt that they have, their different approach, the different training that they have, but they're so willing to go to the park and the forest and to have conversations about the imaginary babies that the respondent believes that they have, and all of that really inspires the court to lean in with curiosity and to look at these respondents in a different way, but in a collaborative way, so that we're really just interested in them reaching their goals, which sometimes is just them getting EBT or their Social Security benefits. But that is something that if they get that benefit, even when they're no longer in CARE Court, they can benefit from that. They can still use that resource. And so we've enabled them to make that connection, get resources they're entitled to, which will allow them to live with greater comfort and dignity, even if they're not housed, even if they're not in CARE Court proceedings.
So even if, so I just want to make sure I understand this. So, I mean, even if the unhoused person refuses the process, they can still be connected with resources that they're entitled to?
Oh, yes.
It's very helpful to be in the care court proceedings. It's very helpful to have signed a care agreement. But a lot of people are not aware of the resources that exist in behavioral health.
Yes.
And so this is a good way to educate people about that.
Yeah, thanks for that pass. So one of the things I wanted to say is that of the clients that are currently engaged in care court, my understanding is that every single one of them volunteered and have a voluntary care plan, not an order. So that means that upon engagement, they said, yes, I recognize I need some help and I'm going to do it voluntarily. That's what we want. And, I said this before, that yes, there's a small group of people who will respond better because it's a court process, but most people, well, not most, I'll say some people really just respond to the care and the outreach and the engagement and the consistent trying, and then, that moves somebody toward accepting help, because you're building trust. And, folks in these situations have deep trauma histories, substance abuse issues, and all kinds of things. Why in the world would they trust anybody? I remembered my point from before. I just wanted to underscore that the criteria for the referral sources, they're all statute-driven, so we don't have any control over that. And so I really encourage you to look at those online, and we also have copies, and I think there's some out on the table so that you know who can refer and who can't.
And we brought the forms. There's a stack of them in the entryway. And also our SLAC office, our self-represented litigant office on the second floor of 600 Union Avenue, will help you fill out the form. Judicial council forms, obviously I have a legal education, so they're straightforward to me, but they're not straightforward to most folks. And so we have lawyers in our courthouse who will help you to fill out those forms if you need that help.
Okay, well, that just answered the next question I had for you, which is how complicated is it to actually file a petition with the court? So they're judicial council forms, meaning they're just basically a form that looks the same for every petition that's filed.
Yes, but they can be handwritten. They don't have to be completely filled out. They don't have to be perfect in any way, shape, or form. So we did have someone who's self-referred to care court. He handwrote his petition. He was describing his issues in the third person, but I was able to make enough sense of it. My default position is, yes, let's set it for a hearing. Let's meet this person. Let's talk to this person. At least let's get the process going. If I cannot make a finding that they meet the criteria, for example, they don't have the appropriate psychiatric diagnosis, then at least we have laid eyes on that person. We know who that person is. A lot of times care court respondents have come in contact with behavioral health throughout their lives, but it's always good to be able to check in with them and sometimes their family members as well, just to have a conversation as to how they're doing. When we talk about this expanded eligibility criteria, it is bipolar 1, which I'm not sure how that's defined. It's bipolar 1 disorder with psychotic features, and it's bipolar 1 with psychotic features except psychosis related to current intoxication. So just fill out the form as best you can. We'll make heads or tails of it, and at least we'll be able to be in conversation with someone who's a member of our community.
So ultimately, where do these people end up?
If anybody has a question, I guess we can just have questions anytime since
Sure.
we're talking. So, but in order they're recording this for Channel 26 and whatever, so if anybody has a question at any point in time, please step to the mic here so that everyone can hear. So, Miss, if you can come on up, yeah, and just ask your questions.
So ultimately, where do these people end up?
So it varies.
Is that microphone on?
It varies. So, for example, if someone's in a situation that, for example, they're unhoused, there are a bunch of temporary housing resources, but we also assist them, behavioral health assists them, in applying for resources, housing resources. So we're in the process of doing that now. And in conjunction with that, we're also applying for that person to receive their Social Security benefits so they can meet the income criteria. So it's a multifaceted approach. There's no individual area that they're going to be warehoused. And some folks are interested in staying in Vallejo. There are housing resources in Vallejo. There are housing, but much more limited resources in Dixon, and there are housing resources in Fairfield. So there's not one specific place that they end up. We're just really working as best we can, because if they have behavioral challenges, they may not be acceptable in some housing settings. There are board and care resources that we sometimes are able to access, which have been very positive with the folks that we're helping. And I'll turn it over to Jen.
Sure, thanks, Judge. I'll just say, you're right, that it varies from person to person. It's based on what the person needs, so, and that's the real answer. But what that means is that, they will have well, first of all, each person receives treatment via Care Court on one of our full service partnership teams. So what that means is that those folks receive our highest level of outpatient treatment. So it's just one step below higher levels of care.
And this is all for free.
Yes.
This is all, yes, it's.
Wow.
Yes, so it's, hi there, it's a very intensive outpatient, 24/7 services. It includes, it's full service partnership. I wanted to add a piece about the housing. While Care Court doesn't offer, it doesn't have first of all, it's essentially an unfunded mandate, like many things we get handed, but we're lucky because the treatment that is required for this program we already have, and we do a great job of already, and we already have a wonderful housing program. So we have bridge-funded housing. Bridge-funded housing is the funding that Care Court clients can kind of jump the line for, if that makes sense. So I did my research, and every client that's been in Care Court has had the opportunity to accept, to be offered housing, because we have enough, which is great. And I anticipate that with the expansion of the eligibility criteria, we'll need to work on that a bit, but we still have quite a bit. So I'm still answering the piece around where folks end up. It varies. They'll likely engage in RFSP. They'll likely end up in a housing situation via bridge-funded housing. And then if there are other things that they want to engage in, alcohol and drug services, education, and yes, even working through our IPS program. We've had clients come from being very impaired, functionally impaired via a psychotic disorder to working full-time. And maybe you can't get your head around that, but it happens, and that's the beauty of the work that we do. We see these recovery stories every day. So I'll leave it at that, and we'll wait for follow-ups.
So it's an unfunded mandate, but there is sufficient county resources so that respondents, and by respondents we mean the actual unhoused person, right? That's the respondent. So respondents, it's an unfunded mandate, but respondents still don't have to pay because the county has the resources available to service their needs.
Yes, currently. I'm not saying it's going to last forever and it's perfect in any way,
Right.
shape, or form.
Of course.
But because we are able to manage the flow and the amount in the
Yes.
census currently, yes. Now, we know this is changing in January, so we're already working toward adding FSP services. And we're ahead of, I'm proud of us. Hi, Monica. I'm proud of us. Monica sits on our Behavioral Health Advisory Board and has heard this before. We put out an RFP last year. We've procured 100 extra full-service partnership slots in our adult system, so we're poised and ready to have that resource available. Thank you, universe. Right now I'm feeling confident. Ask me in 6 months and see if we get a floodgate opened, and we might be struggling, but for now we're in good shape.
But that would be a good struggle to have, right?
It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Right. Thank
you.
you. Sir, you have a question?
I have questions, comments, and concerns. Is it a timer today?
No.
That's what I wanted. That'll calm my mental health so I can slow down a little bit and get it out. Hello, my name is Dennis Green, Jr. I'm gonna try not to get arrested or escorted out. Probably got escorted out of here about 3 times, arrested falsely 1 time, which caused me to go to mental health, which caused me to get behavioral assistance. Now, the thing is, I'm usually one that sits at the end of the meetings, and I've been going to a lot of mental health meetings, whether in the city, county, state, and I would like to say I'm kind of educated on it based on experience. I didn't feel like I would ever be in this position of even being homeless and getting the mental health services which they diagnosed me with based on the things that I went through. And you speaking of the board, I tried to sit on your board. I got invited, shout out to behavioral health team in Solano County that I gave a shout out to in the other places. But I still have concerns, but I tried to also go sit on a different board, which is a library, which is a couple feet away, and I get arrested. My bike get took, which is my transportation, and also these are the things that people with mental health don't get to say. They just put us in the box, or they put those people in the box, the homeless people. How did they go homeless? Nobody asked those questions. Did he lose his job? Did something, injury happen? Did he go schizo? Is it the medicine they take, the food they ate? What happened to make him go? Nobody ever asked those questions. So people got this thing that's, oh, you're going crazy. So a person like myself that's always kind of amped up when I get nervous or anxiety or, behavioral health should know the diagnosis and the therapy that I've been attending, and I study that and also feel like I can contribute to that, to people that look like me that understand, because I was one of those ones that they put me in the portals, but I also went to a 4-year university because I used different methods to control my mental health, whether it's loud and whatever in sports, but that doesn't make me like I don't know what I'm talking about, especially when it comes to court. Speaking of courts, that's true. People don't like to go to court, especially certain people. Maybe it's because they're on probation. Maybe they're on probation because they went to the library. And speaking of courts, I just won 5 days before I was able to. Now, this is the thing. People don't even know the difference from criminal and civil. Child support, that's civil. A ticket across the street, walking, they may be criminal or civil. I don't know. But like I say, I don't even know. Some people don't know the difference. But I know one thing is going to the library and getting falsely charged is criminal. It's up to a year. So if a person like me that just left the behavioral health on Beck Avenue, just left the homeless shelter on Beck Avenue, I almost then have to then go to court. Do I have the fees? Do you think those people have the fees to be buying lawyers? Do I have the money to go get the top lawyer in the country? I probably could ask, but at the same time, think about all those people that you're talking about, that people will call on them and say, hey, you just look like you don't dress nice. That's why I wear, this is my lucky, I also learned once I wear a jacket to court or a meeting, I get a little bit more respect. But hey, maybe they couldn't buy it. Maybe their stuff was in the storage bin by the airport or the base, and it got rained on and it got threw out, or they couldn't pay the bill because they don't have a job. Why they don't got a job? That's a different question. So y'all, the deep people, I'm saying that to ask questions. So let me not hold up too much time, but I also have some concerns because I enjoy doing this. Hashtag BumRep85, because I had to go through this. I'm going through it. Like, y'all don't ask me. So when I try to come and give my input, so I had to go to the judge. I had to go through 3 different, it's a long process that I know I don't got enough time to explain it. But the judge, I basically said I'm dealing with those type of things and dealt with those things in the past. Look into it, but also look into the facts. They're false facts. I didn't go with a backpack like this. I went with the little bum bag that you give us when we go through the services, which is like a little track bag. When I go to in there, I have issues. Now, we had issues with Fairfield. Fairfield didn't mess with me. I'm talking about the police, because they the ones that arrested me and caused more injury, but the injury first started from something different outside of this city council meeting that on 8/7 would have been up for me for probation, because I didn't even know that y'all didn't do criminal, y'all put it in the civil, so that was some sneaky stuff. And next thing you know, 5 days before, I got to go back to court and see the judge.
Did you have a question for us?
Yes, I had a question.
What's that?
Can the care court be extended to criminal?
Care court extended to criminal. So we conduct care court according to statute, and the statutes are made by the legislature. So in order for that to occur, the legislature would have to extend care court to criminal. We have collaborative courts, mental health court in the criminal division. We have drug court in the criminal division. We have veterans treatment court in the criminal division. So those are already established. Care court is a civil proceeding. In order for it to be changed, the legislature has to change it.
Well, Fairfield, look like we can get a start on that.
The
It look
legislature
like we can
in
put that in,
Sacramento-
because if we look at this
May I
situation.
clarify? I'm sorry, I didn't mean for you to misunderstand. It's the legislature in Sacramento, because they make the laws for the state of California.
Yes, ma'am. I've been up there before, even as a behavioral health homeless representative. Well, I was off of homeless. I actually got some housing, but I still deal with behavior. I actually went up there just to sit in the meeting. I sat for a couple of hours and just sat up
Yeah,
there. I
it's
took my bike
fascinating.
again, that same bike.
On the train?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool.
I take train and bike. Some reason, when I went through my homelessness,
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of train and bikes, and I ride train and bikes everywhere now. I don't know why. It saves me some money, actually.
Can I ask a follow-up to your question? The follow-up is, so are individuals with maybe a criminal background or a criminal conviction or something like that, are they precluded, are they prevented from participating in the care court process?
Not at all. In fact, they can have criminal charges pending at the time that they are coming before the care court. So it's one of the questions that we ask. Are you seeing another judge? Which means, essentially, do you have charges pending in a different court? And their public defender will speak up because they have access to that information on a database. And they'll say, yes, this individual is in a different department. They have hearing in 3 weeks, and there may be some decisions about this person's custodial status. But they also indicate that we are in conversation with the court where criminal charges are pending to let them know that this person is participating in CARE Act proceedings. Not the confidential information that is shared during those proceedings, but it enables a judge in a criminal setting to understand that this person is working to access resources to deal with their mental health issues.
Yes, and that's the thing where when you mix those two things in probation, like you could tell a person that, hey, I'm on probation. I might be on probation. I'm not. I just represent it. I just represent reform. So I wasn't even on probation at the time. But
But
certain individuals, can we finish? Certain individuals may be in control of the power, and they may be saying, let's see if he's on probation, and just arrest the guy. So then you mix those two components together with mental health issues, and let's not look down the list of what mental health issues is. I understand certain programs only want certain types, like schizo or severely or things like that, but it's a long list. We just put it in one little box, but it's a long list. So my thing is, I'm a real representation of that, and once my full story come out of oh, I understand, and it's currently, like I said, it just got dismissed in Solano County courts where the judge dismissed it, but I had to go through a process.
Yes.
This process is one that I can speak on that is new to y'all. It's new to me. But if it's new, hey, let's put our hands up, because if they making new policies on everything, why not have our hands up? Because we know what happened to the last policies when we go last. So I'm trying to say, represent from the people the type that I know, that got to go through these type of things to make it more, for they won't be feeling like, well, I don't want to go in there, because hey, you can go in there and get some. Hey,
Yeah.
take me as an example.
Yes.
I'm not looking like one, because that's a problem too. Because if you ain't looking like one, they figure you ain't one.
Well,
and
I'm
if I
interested
am
in
looking
that.
like one, it doesn't matter. So if
Yeah,
I'm,
let me interrupt you. I am interested in people having a different understanding as to what's going on in the Solano County Superior Court. Because there's so many circumstances where there are good things happening, but
Right.
people are very, very afraid to come to court because they have an old experience or an old understanding, and we're evolving all the time. And so, for example, in family law, people will be told, a young man will be told, oh, I'm going to go to court, and the judge is going to give me 100% custody of the child. But the judges are educated that it's in the child's best interest to have frequent and continuing contact with both parents. And so if they come to court, if they don't shy away, they don't even have to have a lawyer, but they will be treated with an understanding that they want the child to see both parents unless there's domestic violence. It's the same with the traffic ticket. These traffic violation fines are astronomical. They're terrifying. But if you come to court and say, I can't afford this $800 ticket, I need all of the money that I have to live in this extremely expensive area in the state of California, a very expensive state. Can I have a reduction of my fine? The court will say yes. The court will say, I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate what you're saying. I'm going to reduce your fine. I'm going to give you 6 months to a year to pay your fine. So those kinds of exchanges are happening every day and all the time. And so you shouldn't be afraid to come to court, because we're trying to do it differently in the administration of justice.
And with that, I'm going to thank you right now. We've
Yeah.
got to keep it pushing.
That's why I say I ain't gonna take too much time, because I got a lot, way more to go, but
But thank
also at
you.
the same time, look, stats, data. We don't get treated the same.
I
We don't get treated fairly, we get treated the most. So
Mm-hmm.
when you add those components in, what we supposed to do?
I understand.
So whether that's falsifying, whether that's, if it really is, and then they make it more, meaning like double the penalty, triple the penalty than the next,
So-
that's what I'm talking about.
Thank you for your comments. Much appreciated. Thank you very much. Good things are happening at Solano County Superior Court. Those are words of encouragement. So tell us about the process. Say we have a respondent who is voluntarily going to participate in CARE Act courts. What happens then? What is the process from that point?
So, as I mentioned earlier, we start with the petition, and the petition would be reviewed by Judge Jones. It also comes to County Council and the behavioral health team that I work very
wow.
closely with. So,
So your office is a part of the petition approval process?
not the approval, that would be
Just review.
Judge Jones's discretion to determine if it meets criteria or not.
Okay.
But in order for our behavioral health team to do the statutorily mandated outreach and engagement, we also have to review the petition, as well as the respondent's public defender, the attorney that's appointed for the respondent. We then would hold, after the court reviews the petition, we have an initial appearance. That at that initial appearance, it's a collaborative court. So I work very closely with the public defender, who's the attorney for the respondent, and then our behavioral health team is also in court. And the behavioral health team will let Judge Jones know about their efforts to engage with the respondent. Sometimes it's a matter of finding wherever they are, but they go to great lengths to meet with them and try to figure out, what would the best services and care be for each individual. And then, hopefully they come to court. Our team, like Judge Jones and Jen Mullane just mentioned, our team will transport folks to court, and sometimes it's their supporter that brings them to court. But the care process it's actually a year-long process. So what happens after the initial appearance is then we have further hearings, case management hearings, and in the hopes of entering into a voluntary care agreement, which outlines all the services, care, treatment, housing, that individual will need, and it's going to look different for each CARE Act respondent. If they voluntarily enter an agreement, we still keep them in that year-long care court process. And our behavioral health team, I have to give them a shout out. They are truly amazing. They're not here today, but the work that they do is simply amazing with each CARE Act respondent. They go, whether it's into the jail, to a homeless encampment, meeting with them weekly, helping them set up doctor's appointments with their psychiatrist, getting them their medications, helping them get their benefits, helping them find housing. We have a CARE Act respondent who is now being referred to a jobs program to help with resumes and job applications. I mean, the work that they do is absolutely amazing. And so throughout this year-long process, we have, either 30-day or 60-day progress review hearings to see, how they're doing. And sometimes the care agreement might need to be amended, depending on the situation. But then the hopes is that we have a graduation hearing a year after a care agreement or plan is entered into. I will say that there's a piece of the year-long process where if the voluntary care agreement is not reached, there can be a point where the court can order a plan. That actually hasn't happened yet because a lot of our CARE Act respondents thus far have willingly entered into these agreements, which has been great. I've seen the progress that each CARE Act respondent has made, and it's just been really rewarding to see the process, so.
And did you mention that the judge at some point can order a CARE Act agreement? What does that mean?
It's a little bit confusing the way the legislation is written, but there's a CARE agreement that's voluntarily entered into, and then as you go down the process of the CARE Act, the process flow throughout that year, we can go into like a clinical evaluation, and then if they're not adhering to their CARE agreement or anything, we can order services, but it's still a civil voluntary process. So if there's no penalties if you don't comply with the court's, plan, or there's no, it's still a voluntary process. It's just kind of,
That's interesting.
it's just a lot of, legislation that they have the agreement and they have the plan that's court ordered, but everything is still technically voluntary. It's just there's no penalties if you don't comply.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard, if I'm hearing correctly, of a court order that once when I think of a court order, once the judge orders something, you better do it, period, right? So, and you're saying with this, that's a little bit different.
It's just an added way to have them comply with the
incentive.
medication or treatment,
It's
but there's
just an
no
incentive.
forced medication
Okay.
or anything like that. It's
Interesting.
more of just, we really want you
Right.
to get the help that you need with
Yeah.
our clinicians, and, yeah.
And let me just say this, because this might help. A little light bulb just went on for me too. I'm like, that's the court piece, but what about the treatment? And so that it's important to know the whole court process, and everything that Kelly is talking about is very important. And all the while, the minute the person starts in this process, they are now engaged in treatment. And that's where the beauty of this work
Yeah.
is. Now, what's really cool about our court, though, is we have a wonderful judge, and we have a wonderful team that works from the court. I'm looking at them now. So there's other strengths-based things going on around them that might not occur in other counties, but we're lucky to have that here, where they're getting their great treatment, and they're also getting recovery-oriented support from the court. I mean, that's amazing.
It is amazing.
So,
Agreed.
anyway, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I would like to ask, I have not heard who is out looking for these people. We walk the streets, I walk my dog every day, and I see people. So who is going to engage with them and help them?
Right.
That's what I'd like to know.
Great question.
Want me to try?
Please.
Okay, so I'm going to take that question as though it expands past what we're talking necessarily about today with CARE Court. That's the question about outreach and engagement for people that are in need in our community, regardless of whether they're going to be petitioned for CARE Court. So that, to me, the way that I would answer that is that we have our street outreach teams at work. We have our housing program that goes out and looks for folks. Folks come in through the police officer door sometimes, and the police might refer to behavioral health. I mean, there are many pockets of activity that occur in our community, and I'm looking at Kevin from Archway and out in the audience, like, every program that works in our community is looking for people to try to help them, and in different ways, shapes, and forms. So, CARE Court will proactively outreach and engage people that are referred, people that might rise to the level of need in CARE Court. I'm thinking of the 4 people that we have that our behavioral health team is proactively outreaching and engaging right now to try to get them petitioned. So that'd be another pocket of activity for outreach and engagement. But, the way that we really answer that honestly is that there's different parts of our system that are out looking for people in general. And with CARE Court, our team looks, and the folks come through the front door, which in this case is by virtue of the petition. So that's the best way I can answer that right now. If there's a follow-up, go ahead and ask. But
I have a follow-up for that.
Yeah.
So the question was, who's out looking, for potential respondents to participate? So as a petitioner, say I am a police officer, and so I can file a petition. How burdensome is that process for me as the petitioner? I mean, am I going to be having to go to the hearings and having to, participate in the plan and having to follow up with the
No,
judge?
you don't have to do any of that.
Yeah.
You don't even have
Wow,
to,
okay,
frankly, go to the first hearing if you
That's
don't
right.
want to. Because what we do is someone can get the process started, but we immediately relieve the initial petitioner from that role.
That's
And we
important.
put behavioral health in the place of the petitioner. So if they can get the process started, then we will take it from there. And you don't have to have a continuing obligation with regard to these proceedings. Sir?
Thank you for that. Very helpful.
First, I want to say thank you guys for the work that you do. Thank you for taking the time tonight to answer questions. I've heard 2 diagnoses specified here, schizophrenia and the plan to expand to bipolar. Do individuals who don't meet the clinical diagnosis of schizophrenia or bipolar have hope in the future to receive care through the Care Court program?
So I would just respond to that. I think what would have to happen is there would have to be a further legislation that would be passed. So there are psychiatric diagnoses that don't meet criteria right now. So you could have, say, major depression, and you wouldn't meet the criteria. However, there are still the resources available in terms of the same treatment and care and services that they're getting in Care Court with our county behavioral health system, right? So you can still get all of the things that you might be able to get in Care Court through
Yes.
Behavioral Health Division.
And let me just add that, because thank you for tossing that. So I don't want anybody to have to go to court to access services that they want. So what they should do is just call our access line. I'll give that number to folks. It's 707-784-8080.
707-784.
8080. And it's on our website. We'll put it, I'll make sure you get it. But the point is that if somebody wants treatment, they do not need to go through this huge process of Care Court, because they can just call and say, I need some help. They'll get a screening, they'll come in for an assessment, and those services would be available. I mean, there's other factors involved there, obviously, but
Thank you very much.
yeah.
That was a great point. Thank you for that question.
Hi, good evening. I actually have 2 questions. The first question is there a requirement that the individual needs to be homeless?
No.
Okay.
I think that Councilmember Bertani is using that term, but
Okay.
that's not the requirement.
Okay, good. That's good to know. And then it actually was new information to me to hear that there's not really a penalty associated. And if that's the case, how come have court? Why not come to your office and have a family, a meeting or team meeting or staffing or what have you?
Because it's cool to come to court.
Says the judge, right?
As the judge, right? I do it every day. No, I think there's a role that we can serve in encouragement. I think that people, I found this especially in family law, people like for a judge to pay attention to them and to understand what the complexities of their life are and to problem solve with them and to say that we see you. And I think that that is what the governor and the legislature is encouraging judges to do. And we get so much education from that, because I don't know one judge that hasn't come from a privileged background. We had the privilege of getting an education. We had the privilege of practicing law. We had the privilege of these wonderful jobs. So we need to have education as to our fellow citizens and how they are living and the challenges that they're facing. I heard a term recently that I appreciated so much, which was people judge you for the decisions that you make, but they don't understand the choices that you had. And so if we can start formulating an understanding as to the choices that people have, which are far more limited than we possibly can imagine, then we can work with them and meet them where they are and take them to a better place.
Sure, appreciate that. When you read the oppositions to Care Court, it does talk about the criminalization of mental illness. And there is a lot of opposition for that reason. So is this notion of not having any penalties assigned to it, is that a Solano County thing, or is that a
No, that's
state?
statewide.
Okay, all right, so I just wanted to make sure
That's
that was
statewide.
the case. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I want to validate, if I may, is it okay, Pam?
I'm
You're good.
not
Oh,
the
okay.
presiding
All
judge
right.
up here.
Or judge, sorry. I guess I should just talk and not ask for permission. I think that it's really important to know that this piece of the civil court it's just really important for everybody to understand that we do not see this through a criminal lens, and people do not need to go to court to get treatment. I'll just leave it there for now.
And if I may, we prepared, the county prepared for a CARE Act court, for a year before we had to implement it. So this process started, we had working groups, we worked with the courts, with the public defender's office, we had trainings, we all worked together to figure this out. And, at first we thought, this is gonna be scary. People are getting hauled into court, right? And I just want to say that having Judge Jones presiding over these hearings has been just wonderful, because people aren't actually scared to appear in front of Judge Jones, and we actually have someone who looks forward to coming to court and looks forward to seeing their clinician, and has had a rocky road, right? But then, I think that person is really understanding that this is a wraparound care. Where, I've seen just great results, like I mentioned before, but we were worried that it was going to be, a scary thing, and it can be. You're still in, court, and some people are in custody, some people have been referred from a variety of different places, but what I've seen personally, every Thursday is, people that have felt comfortable with our behavioral health team, with their attorney from the public defender's office, and especially appearing in front of Judge Jones. So it's not as scary of a process once the respondents get into the flow of things.
They just have to walk through the door.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you're
Right.
always welcome.
They have to walk through the door. And the judge and everyone on this panel does the hard work. Tell me about the CARE agreement. What are the component of a general CARE agreement? What does that look like?
So we have our behavioral health team, we tailor it to each individual's needs. So if they're unhoused, that's a key component, because our team prioritizes finding them shelter and the shelter that meets their needs. And then it's also the services that they're going to get, whether it's therapy or psychiatry appointments. Some people have medical issues that need to be tended to, but our behavioral health team, like Jen mentioned, is, we provide full service partnership care. So that includes a lot of different, aspects to that treatment and support that they're getting. So our care agreement really just outlines for each individual all of the services that they're going to need. Is it substance use services? Is it psychiatric care? Do we have to, work with them on compliance with medications? And there can be a variety of things. Oh, and the benefits. Our team works to get them their Social Security benefits or EBT benefits or general assistance. So each care
And
agreement
to get their
is,
ID.
Oh, even to get their ID, yeah. So for each care agreement, it's different. It's not very lengthy. It could be just a couple of pages, but it just outlines, what they're going to be doing in the care process, and the treatment that, we're hoping to provide them. And that would be kind of what we're following through the year-long process in CARE Act court.
Does the agreement have any, does the agreement place any or assign any responsibilities to the respondent? Like, okay, here's the plan, now here's what you have to do.
It's more goal-oriented, so it's more...
Goal-oriented?
Yeah, so it's more, this is our hope for you, kind of. We're going to provide this, we're going to provide that. We're hoping you work with us on, whatever issue that they're facing. So it's
Okay.
not like, you're going to meet with us every month, but our team reaches out and meets with most of the CARE Act respondents weekly, if not more sometimes.
And it's done in the spirit of partnership and with a recovery orientation, which means that I do this, we set the goals together, and we hold the hope for you that even though you might be in the situation now, that you can actually recover and have a good, happy, healthy life if you
Right.
really, if that's what you want, and we will do that together with you. And so that's the spirit within which we create these plans. It's essentially a treatment plan at the end of the day, but it's done in tandem with the respondent.
And sometimes it's a heavy lift to go to your appointments and take your medication.
Right.
Or attend to the process of getting your EBT. That's a big ask for some folks. And so it's a blueprint for what we're going to work together to accomplish, I think is one way of describing the care agreement.
So the care agreement is goal-oriented and recovery-based.
Yeah, I would say that, yeah.
I would say that.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank
That
you.
comes from the spirit of our team, too. That's just who they are in the world and how they work with people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you, ladies, thank you, judges.
Can you please step to the mic and pull it down a little bit?
All right, sorry.
There
I'm
you
short.
go. Perfect.
So, question, I just wanted to clarify, earlier you had mentioned Governor Newsom started this program, and is it for every county in California?
Yes.
Correct.
And how is it funded?
So, and that's a very good question. So, Solano County was actually in the cohort 2 group. We had other counties go before us, and I think implemented in 24. So, like Los Angeles, Riverside, San Francisco, they had to implement sooner than we did, which was actually helpful because we could go to their counties and see how they were doing care court, and we, talked to other behavioral health divisions in other counties, and were able to, really work towards how Solano County was going to model our, court and services, and, just everything from the templates of the agreements, or, how other behavioral health agencies were managing the mandates that are set forth. But as far as the funding, there isn't specified funding, and it's more the burden on behavioral health to kind of figure it out.
Okay. No, thank you. My name is Eileen Mamangan, and I started a new job. I'll be a street outreach provider. So starting in January, our group is new. We're going to be going to homeless encampments, homeless shelters, and providing resources as well. So this has been fabulous. Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
How can the city of Fairfield be a great partner to help facilitate this process with the CARE Act courts? What can we do as a city to help get the job done?
Well, to the extent that your first responders can be petitioners, then they certainly can be educated about filling out these petitions and understanding that they won't have a continuing obligation to go to the court. I also think that getting the word out to the residents of the city of Fairfield who may have mentally ill family members to educate them that this is a resource and that they can get support in filling out the forms to start the process. And even if they don't engage in care court, there may be residents of the city of Fairfield who have mentally ill family members who now have learned that those family members can go to behavioral health and get those services outside of the care court proceedings. So it's really a matter of education and encouragement.
We can do that. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I am so grateful for this forum this evening. I just have one question. Now, is each respondent assigned a navigator? And also, I just want to make a comment. I just really wish, and I'm grateful that this county and this body, it looks at the whole issue in terms of criminalizing mental health. Are people who are mentally ill, and as a clinician, I'm just thankful for care court, because I've had clients who have participated in it successfully, but I just wanted to find out whether each client, a respondent, is assigned a navigator. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I would need to know specifically what you mean by navigator, but I can guess, and then if I get it right, like each person can have a supporter through the court process, and each person would receive their own case manager via the treatment team. So in those ways, those are two different types of navigators, I would call them. But was there something specific you were thinking?
No, just in terms of guiding the respondent, particularly when someone has a mental health issue. It's not easy. I don't have a mental health issue, and I'm past military. It is hard for me to sometimes help people navigate just the
Complexity.
system. How does one apply? What's the next step? How does one apply for this? How does one get involved with this? How does one get involved with the services? Because I can see someone being just totally psychologically frozen without someone there to kind of guide them once they
Yes.
go to
Thank you.
court.
So with that, thank you very much. With that description, I would say that that person's their treatment provider, and because they start at the very beginning of the process with them and go throughout. So.
With the medication treatment aspect, with most of the first generation medicines that are used for treatment developed 75 years ago, I understand why people stop taking them, but what happens when people stop taking them is like critical and a lot of the times fatal and very self-destructive. Is there anything being done to improve the medication used for treatment or ways to monitor the side effects that come with it to prevent people from trying to not exist anymore after stopping?
Yeah. Thank you for your question. I'll reflect it back and make sure. So it's a question about the medication aspect of treatment and what can happen to somebody depending on what kind of meds they're on or whatever, whether it's old types of medications or current newer ones, what can happen when they stop. One of the strengths in our system here in Solano, I only speak for my own system here, is that we have a really strong, robust psychiatry program. And so our psychiatrist works extremely closely with the case managers. So there's not a lot of ego in our system around that. Like, some docs can have big egos, but in our system, we've got some really recovery-oriented folks. So with that, I feel confident in saying that the medication aspect in our system is very, it's talked about very openly with the entire treatment team. And why that's important is because if somebody starts to express some feelings of suicidal ideation or any thoughts or feelings of wanting to hurt themselves, those case managers or peer providers for that matter don't have any hesitation to go to talk to the big doctor because they're on equal playing ground. There's a leveling of that in our system. In my humble opinion, it works very well here. So I guess I'm tooting our horn a bit around that because I feel really confident that our psychiatrists are doing an excellent job of monitoring the meds and that they welcome input from peer providers, from case managers, and others that lay eyes on folks, and it's not a power over in our system, because that's the kind of system I want to have with our behavioral health system, because there's just been too much negative stuff in our history, our collective history in the mental health universe around how we treated folks historically. So I hope that answers some of your question.
I would add from the judicial perspective that, of course, it's very good that there are no penalties for failing to comply with your care agreement, especially when it comes to medication. But also because we are working in proximity of behavioral health, we start to be better educated about the fact that this medication may help some symptoms, but may have very nasty side effects and may stop working after an extended period of time. And so instead of saying, you didn't take your medication, we're going to put you in jail, we start having a conversation with behavioral health about how we are going to change the understanding of how this person is going to get better, with maybe a change in the medication, maybe a change in their treatment regimen in some other way. But again, it's all carrot and no stick in care court. So there are no negative consequences for people who want to make changes to the way that they treat their mental illness.
Okay, I'm try to make it quick. Three different quick questions. Again, Dennis Green Jr. First, Fairfield, I just wanted to know, what do you guys do to prevent mental health and these type of things? And second, when you go to, that's one of the biggest fears as a person that had to see the judge make me go see another psychiatrist outside, which is their psychiatrist, and then when the public defender is not there and the doctor's yelling at me because he's waiting 30 minutes and he says he gets paid $400 an hour and I'm no job. So I'm supposed to then, me and the doctor going back and forth, and then he just makes a report to the judge. How does that affect those people? Like, you know, because my biggest fear is getting sent to Sonoma, because that's what they want you to go do. They want you just to get treatment. They want you to take a ride all the way to Sonoma to get treatment. And I don't know why it's all the way to Sonoma, but they want you to take a ride all the way to Sonoma to get treatment. And that's one of my biggest fears, is being in one of those facilities and then they saying you crazy and then hit you with a different type of crazy pill or diagnosis based on what they see in you. If you hear what I'm saying, if you kind of feel what I'm saying. If not, I know it's brief, but it's gonna make sense later. But you know, for a person that almost got kicked out of a homeless shelter based on mental health issues, based on wrongdoing, because that's how I am when I kind of advocate for people like myself. And you know, and I'm not the perfect guy, but also I know my rights and I know I'm not crazy.
Right.
You know,
and I appreciate your questions, because you are enabling us to make a distinction between criminal proceedings and civil proceedings. And these are voluntary civil proceedings. And so it's a very different experience for the respondent than the obviously negative experience that you have had. And so I appreciate your questions as well as your experience, because we can point out the distinctions between care court and the experiences that you've had.
and that's all of my purpose is to do, is to be an example.
Thank you for that.
You know, rather,
I appreciate that.
and take my background is to be an example, because that's kind of the people you should see and get the examples from, people that's been through it.
Thank you.
And I'll just add real quickly that the city of Fairfield, in my opinion, has really led the way in Solano County for helping to connect people who need these services with their services. Our HIT team has led the way. Our HEART team has led the way. We have council member Doris Panduro, who's sitting back there. Hi, Doris. And she has been working for a couple of years now on a navigation center that is quickly coming to fruition to do that same thing as well, to help people who need mental health services connect to those services and to everything that surrounds those services. So the city of Fairfield, we understand it, we get it. I mean, we're having this forum tonight, right? We understand it, we get it, and we're doing our level best and spending a lot of money doing that, by the way.
That's true, and I think I've been to more of their meetings than your meetings, and they pretty much get tired of me too, coming up there just speaking on that. But I speak on that based on coming to you guys first, and then they send me back. Just like that board that y'all got, 5 of them come from you, 1 of them come from each city. I went to that, and then, you know, hey, I'm getting arrested.
Thank you for that comment. Come on down.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully most people in the room know me. If not, my name is John McKenzie. I'm the president for NAMI Solano. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So we are a grassroots organization focused on outreach, support, and education for those individuals suffering from mental illness and also their families. So with that said, I think that the greatest challenge with CARE Act, I think it's an amazing process. I think it's a huge opportunity. But the elephant in the room surrounding CARE Act is the division between the assisted outpatient treatment process that is part of the criminal division of court and the voluntary component of CARE Act. So the question that we get 99% of the time is, my loved one would benefit from the services with CARE Act. However, because of the voluntary nature, we do not have a method as a result of their anosognosia, which is their inability to understand that they have a mental illness. So we don't really have a way to get them between the Services of Care Act and the fact that the only way for the majority of them to get services is to then have a criminal case and get the system to force them to have services. So my question to the universe would be, how does the system bridge the gap between voluntary services and waiting for somebody to have a criminal case?
Right.
And I could
So
probably
the-
step back
so
and you
I
guys could
guess
talk about that for the next
If that's
week.
the elephant in the room, the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the room is the Constitution of the United States as well as the Constitution of the State of California. Because to change someone's rights in terms of their liberty, you have to give them due process. So there are conservatorships, for example, LPS conservatorships where someone can be forcibly medicated and housed, but they have a right to a jury trial. And so if under those circumstances you're able to reach the conclusion that that person's liberty can be changed, their constitutional rights can be changed, it is only through that process that you can do that. There's also a component, and I think the governor is aware of it, which is that before I became a judge, I was in the city attorney's office for Vallejo, and I would sit on diocese Tuesday after Tuesday, and I would hear people say, don't build affordable housing in my neighborhood. And so affordable housing is a critical component for mental health. And so the governor recognizes that we have to change course on that, and we have to build affordable housing in order for people to be able to take care of their mental health inside as opposed to outside in the elements. So again, we can do our best on a voluntary basis, but there are a lot of advocates who are very anxious about conservatorship, very distrustful. Of course, hashtag Free Britney was one of the things that stigmatized conservatorship.
Right.
And so we really have to work with a lot of different competing interests in a state that has 40 million people in order to get something that may work as part of a patchwork.
Yeah, I encourage the folks that are listening to see CARE Act as one of the tools and understand that ideally, whenever somebody expresses the need for services, that CARE Act is one of the opportunities. And the overlap between the AOT, the Assisted Outpatient, and CARE Act, and the regular services that are available. I think that if they speak up and they ask for help, if either going directly to the county services or through asking NAMI to help represent them. We do a lot with diversion, with AOT, with CARE Act, with just general services. And I think people would see that there are a lot of services available that are applicable to their loved one. And then ideally moving forward, we would see those cases that do fall through the cracks, and we would grab those as quickly as possible to be able to find those services that are available.
What I would encourage you to continue to speak out and educate people, because you have a wealth of knowledge that you may assume that other people know what you know, but they don't. And judges don't know what you know. And so I would definitely love to invite you to come to court and to address our judges, but I only have 28 days more of authority to invite you. And then I will shift that responsibility to someone else. But the more that we can be educated, and one term that I learned, which was an epiphany for me, is that people have to be ready. I didn't realize, of course, as judges, we think, no, I just have to order you, but that's not accurate. And people would rather sit in jail than give up their drug of choice. They'd rather sit in jail than not live outside. And so when they're ready, that's the moment that we have to strike. We have to get in there and surround them with care.
Yeah, building hope and compassion for themselves as well as other people having hope and compassion for them, but having people understand that they have value and that they deserve that hope and compassion. It's a big gap to try to bring people for their own recovery. But NAMI Solano is here. So hopefully we can continue that relationship. We work very closely with the county. Hopefully we can continue that and then work with collaborative courts. We've been providing those CARE Act education outreach programs. So there is hope, even if there is a known gap, right? We know that there are some gaps, but hopefully we can continue to fill those.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for your presentation. I've learned a lot tonight. I would have to agree with the gentleman that just spoke in that this is going to be a great program for a very specific demographic. There is a tremendous need, particularly in Fairfield, where the county seat, the jail lets out downtown. All the recovery services are located down here. And there are a lot of people who, they don't have anybody in their family that cares anymore. There is nobody to go file a conservatorship, but they need a conservatorship. We had a lady who lived on the lawn at the senior center for years, literally years, and she had no one to help her. I don't know if we still have a public guardian or not, but that is the group. I mean, clearly reasonable minds could not differ that this lady had to have some mental health issues. She may have had other issues, substance abuse or something, but it was not safe for her out there. It was for ongoing for years. And there are many people like that downtown. And I do agree that there needs to be, when you next talk to Governor Newsom, something else, a next step up that would be somewhat of an expedited temporary conservatorship process for people who are in extreme crisis. You know, to start something off, maybe in concert with the public guardian, if that even still exists, I don't know. But that is a tremendous hole, and I think it's an even bigger hole than the hole that the care court will be addressing. Maybe not everywhere, but in Fairfield it is. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we are coming down, we're winding down here. We've got about, you're good. We've got about 6 minutes to go. So with that, you have the floor.
One thing I think that needs to be said is that recovery is not magic. It's not an event, it's a process. And one thing that something like Care Court does is it introduces someone and takes them out of chaos and provides some structure.
Yeah.
And movement from chaos to structure provides an opportunity for a reduction in anxiety.
Yeah.
And so I have a client I've been working with for 10 years. 10 years ago, he's schizophrenic with paranoid tendencies. Worked with him for 10 years. Over that 10 years, we saw he's been using meth since he was 12 years old. His mother was a heroin addict. When he was 9, his mother nailed his hand to the kitchen floor because he was not a good boy. And so a lot of trauma in this guy's life. He's my age. And working with him for 10 years, patiently, providing little structure, runs away, comes back, runs away, comes back. He's housed today. He's been in, he's in a shared living environment. He pays his rent, and he's thriving for him. But it was a 10-year process. And we can't be in a hurry with these people that we're seeking to serve. And so Care Court is a way to initiate a process that's going to take longer than a year. But it's going to put a person in relationship with helping people and helping professionals. And as those relationships build and that trust builds, over time, people will heal. It's not magic, it's not an event, it's a process, and it takes a long time, but it's a process that we have a community. If we care about our neighbors, it's a process that we need to be committed to.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
I know you're short on time, but I also wanted to add one thing that was brought up. So, Solano County, as of January 1st, we'll be implementing Senate Bill 43, which is also a gap in the legislation that enables law enforcement and mental health professionals and other individuals to identify the individuals in the community that may be suffering from extreme mental health conditions, also in collaboration with their medical concerns and substance abuse issues that are all compounded and run together. So as of January 1st, we will see some of those things that the legislation is now accounted for, all kind of roll together. And so I think we'll see a lot of benefits. I just wanted to add that because that was a question directly. Thank you.
John, it's funny how stars line up sometimes. I was just meeting with my own supervisor today who said, hey, Jen, we need to put out a press release about implementing SB 43 before the end of the year. So it's a PSA to say, stay tuned for a press release coming out about that very topic because it's an very, very important one. So thanks for mentioning that, John.
Thank you very much. So does anyone on the panel have any parting remarks?
I think I've said everything.
I just want to say thank you. I often will get energized by energy from others as an extrovert. I just want to say thank you. I can see that you're here because there's probably somebody in your life that you care very much about, or you yourself, or have things that you're working through or have worked through. And we're all in this together. We're really blessed to have a wonderful court partner, council that supports us. I have one of our board members is here, members of our community, our court partners. Anyway, thank you for all of you for being here, for your very thoughtful questions.
I just really enjoyed this. I think it's great to kind of educate everybody on the CARE Act process. And for me personally, it's just been, like I've mentioned earlier, it's just been very rewarding to work with our behavioral health team and to see folks getting the care that they really need. And I'm just in awe of our behavioral health care team. I mean, they are just amazing with each CARE Act respondent. And so to see the successes of some of the people that have entered into CARE Court has just been really rewarding for me. So after all our work and trying to get it up and running, and now having it been implemented for a year now, just to see some of just little successes with folks, has been really rewarding. So thanks for having us.
Thank you, the City of Fairfield, for bringing us here.
Absolutely our pleasure. Thank you for working with me over the past months to make this happen. And, part of the beauty of this is that this this meeting is being recorded right now. So it'll go out on Channel 26 for families out there to have access to, and YouTube. So it's a teaching tool for our entire city and county. And I know how busy each of you are, and I really appreciate the time and energy and effort that you put into helping make this happen this evening. So I think they deserve a round of applause. Thank you, everyone. That'll wrap the meeting. Happy holidays. Thanks for coming.